RJ Young on the RJ Young Show. Patrick Masick in the booth. We are joined by Broken Arrow head coach Dave Alexander. And, man, one of the coolest parts about all of this is the conversation we get to have when the mics are off. But I also wanted to kind of sort of talk about those things in that you are in a very unique position to deliver the message that we're going to try to be about winning.
Right.
And one of the questions that I wanted to put to you was, as a guy who has that history, who has that family, did you get any pushback from people going, hey, nobody else says that. Nobody else does this. And that's not who we are.
No, I didn't get any pushback. I mean, I'm sure I got some cross-eyed looks when I wasn't looking, but, behind my back or whatever. But, it took me to probably going into my third year there that I realized, right, all this, going 8-2 was fine attitude was not coming from the kids, right? Do you have kids, RJ? Right. Right. So you've been around little kids, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A 3-year-old, they get upset when you beat them in tic-tac-toe, right? So the kids want to win. But it took me to my third year to figure out it was the older brothers and the dads and the uncles and the granddads that were telling our players, hey, 8-2 is great. Your brother went 8-2. I went 8-2. Your uncle went 8-2. Your granddad played at Broken Arrow. He went 8-2. And so I started I started coaching my parents almost as much as I started coaching our kids, right? There are going to be lots of years, right, that Broken Arrow is going to go 8-2. But 8-2 is not the goal, right? 10-0 is the goal. Now, if we go 8-2, hey, we had a great year. And, we're going to get better, and we're going to go into the playoffs at 8-2, and we're going to see how far we can go, right? Maybe we can get to the championship game. But, you need to set your goals where, if you miss, you've still had a pretty good accomplishment. If you set your goals where it's easy to get to, and then you don't make them, and that's a disappointment for everybody. So we just set our goals high. We talked about winning, and then the process of trying to get there.
So you return some studs.
Oh, yeah.
In particular, you got, I've made reference to him. Andrew Raym is a preternatural talent from everybody that I talk to who knows anything about offensive line. You would know better than anybody.
Yeah.
What about him and Myles Slusher as well,
sure,
right?
Myles too.
Those two guys in particular. But what is it about that group of kids that sets them apart, especially as a guy who follows recruiting so closely?
Right. Well, yeah, we had obviously a championship team last year, 13-0, and we lost some incredible players and leaders, right? But we've got 5 guys coming back that are 3-year starters. Well, 4 guys coming back that are 3-year starters, and one, Andrew, who's going to be a 4-year starter. Okay, Andrew Raym, from the first time I saw him, he's just a different dude, man. He's a different cat. He's as good an athlete as that we have on the football team. It's just that he's 6'4", 295 pounds. I saw. This is a great story about Andrew. He's a great kid. He makes great grades, but he was in the indoor over the weekend because the quarterbacks were in there and get a little extra time with each other. So he texted me to come out of the office. So I come out in the office and he goes, "Watch this. I want to play receiver." Right? Runs a route, catches a pass. I'm like, "Andrew, hey, that's great, man. I get it. You can play receiver, but who's blocking? Right? Who's blocking? So you're going to play right tackle and." Right, you're going to block, and that way that other guys can get open when you throw the ball to him. But he's just such a good athlete. He can do almost anything. There was a year back, I think it was his sophomore year. We would love to have him be our punter, except he had the deep snap for us. So he's just an incredible athlete. Myles Slusher coming in, he's a 3-year starter, going to be a 3-year starter as well. When you watch Myles on film, he does everything exceptionally well. But there's 2 things that are elite when you watch Myles, especially for a high school player, is his change of direction. His change of direction is elite. He goes from backwards to forwards at full speed, right? Or going left, going to right at full speed. And then the rare thing that you see from Myles that you don't see for a lot of high school defensive backs is he loves the physicality. He loves to be in the run fit, is what we call it. You get a run read key, and he is downhill making a tackle at the line of scrimmage. Guys that do that, right, that we've seen around here the last few years, right? Patrick Fields from Union, right? I mean, he was amazing in the run fit, right? Josh Proctor from Wausau 2 years ago, great coverage, obviously great athlete, big, but he loved to come downhill and be in the run fit, right? Those guys that do that in high school wise, right, that can cover and come down and tackle the line of scrimmage are pretty special.
Do you feel compelled to try to put those guys in different situations? Because you mentioned Andrew Raym as playing right tackle for you right now, as opposed to left tackle, center, guard, whatever.
Right.
Or are there different things that you get to do with those athletes that you might not necessarily do with others? And do you feel like you need to?
Well, yeah, I'm not as dumb as I look, right? I know I'm an offensive lineman. I've been beat up a lot in my life, but yeah, Andrew and Myles this year, especially now that they're seniors, right? And they know their bodies and what they can and can't do. They're both going to have to be in multiple roles this year, right? Andrew's going to play some tight end. He played a little bit of fullback last year. He's going to play defense, right? And those, we talked about those first 4 games, right? In those games, he's going to have to play a little defensive line. I mean, he's just too good not to play over there. And then Myles the same way. He's going to play Myles is going to play every snap of defense. But we're going to cross train him, or we have all summer at receiver, and he's just too dynamic of an athlete not to do that. And we're going to get those guys on the field as much as they can early when it's hot. Right, when it's hot, it's tough, but we'll play them as much as we can those first 4 games both ways. And as the season goes on, as they build their conditioning and it cools off, right, hopefully we get to playoff time, right, those guys will be rocking and rolling and they can play a lot of snaps on both sides of football.
What do you tell younger kids about not just necessarily waiting their turn, because I know that's a conversation that needs to happen, but about how they approach the game, because they're not necessarily getting the attention that other kids get for obvious reasons.
Right.
But how do you tell the freshman who's just here,
right,
this is what you can do for us, this is how you can contribute, this is what you need to do?
Well, that's a great question, RJ, because every year it's a little bit different, right? But I do tell my sophomores, I have a sophomore meeting, and then just those kids, I say, listen, you look at Coach Alexander's track record the last 5 years, right? I'm not scared to play a sophomore. I've started sophomores, right? And so, right now, the first day of practice, August 12th, right, you're not going to get as many reps as the juniors and seniors. But trust me, when you get your reps and you go put something on film that stands out, right, and that will be effort and knowing your assignments early, right, you'll get more reps, right? And Coach Alexander, man, I'm not afraid of throwing a guy in there because we, like I said, we go hard enough that, and put the kids under pressure. We'll know if they can play on a Friday night by what we do in practice. And if a sophomore is the best guy at that position, hey, we're going to rock and roll with him.
See, and that is becoming much more of an attitude that is becoming modern, for lack of a better term, because I can't say that wouldn't necessarily been the truth when you were coming up.
No.
Okay.
When I was in high school, even, and that was a long time ago, RJ, but, back when it was really old school, right, sophomores, we didn't even get an opportunity to dress out with varsity. It was juniors, seniors only at Broken Arrow. I mean, it was no chance.
Is that because the kiddos are better prepared, or is it because you're much more liberal in what you're going to do?
Well, it's both, right?
Okay.
Obviously, the training is different, right? The training's way different now. But, everything's changed, right? I know I don't want to say I'm old. I hope I'm not too old. Right? I'm going to do this for a while longer. But, everything's changed. The instant gratification with the cell phones and the this and that. And you know what? Kids are doing more and more mentally challenged early, right? And mature earlier. I believe that. And with the way we're training, if a sophomore kid can understand his assignments and learns how to play fast, and if he can help his team in any way, I'm not afraid of putting him out there and playing him.
Social media is a big aspect of conversation for us, particularly as it relates to high-profile athletes.
Right.
And, I tell folks that these kids, even as they're local celebrities, they got between 3,000 and 10,000 hecklers in their pocket.
Right.
And do you coach them on that? Do you teach them on that? Or
yes, we do.
Oh, okay.
We talk about it. We have to, right? I haven't had this talk with Myles yet because he hasn't, he's not there yet. But when Andrew decommitted from Oklahoma, right, when he told me he was going to do that, back 2 years ago,
right,
I called him and his dad, mom, and Andrew was 16 years old. I said, hey, you, if this is what you want to do, man, right, understand, okay, there are people out there that are going to bait you. They're going to say stuff. and right, it's going to hurt your feelings, right? It may make you mad. You can't respond, right? They're right. 90% of those people that are trying to bait you are just jealous, right? And just seeing if they can get you to say something on Twitter or Instagram that's going to hurt you later on, right? Mom and dad, right? If this is a family decision, then you're be solid in that decision and rock and roll with it. Andrew, he handled it, man, like a champ. He's very mature, and so is Myles. Myles is very smart, very headstrong, and very sure of himself. So Myles' decision, he didn't let anybody, bait him in any stuff either. I was very proud of those guys. Of course, neither one of those guys are huge social media guys, right? You don't see they're not
not playing on it.
They're not banging out 60 tweets a day like some guys you see. They just put the information out there they want people to see, right? Commitments or inspirational videos.
And that's actually a part of this that I wanted to have a conversation with, because I talk about this with parents all the time. It's not necessarily attention seeking as much as they're putting out their own message, and it's for a very select group of people.
Control the message.
Right. And I want to talk about that on the other side of the break with Broken Arrow head coach Dave Alexander. This has been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you coming through for this.
Of course.